Picture yourself wandering the bustling hearts of Rome in year 67 AD. The streets hum with life, marble temples glisten under the Mediterranean sun, and senators in white flowing togas hurrying to the forum. You also hear the legionaries clattering past in heavy armor and smell incense curls from the nearby shrine invade your nostrils. The chatter of merchants fill the crowded streets. But amidst it all, without warning, the noise shifts. The crowd falls into silence, heads bow, all eyes turn. The emperor himself, Nero, is here. He strides forward in garments stitched with gold, his presence magnetic, almost theatrical. But it is not Nero who captures the whispers that ripple through the crowd today. At his side walks a figure so radiant that many assume that he must be Rome's new empress. Cloaked in silk adorned with jewels that catch the sunlight, moving with practiced grace. But appearances are deceiving in this case, because this was not an empress. This was Sporus. Born just a boy, remade into something he never chose to be. His story is one of the most haunting stories in ancient Roman history. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. I am Angel and I will be your host today. If you're new here, I dive into history's darkest corners, the scandals, the crimes, and human tragedies that often get reduced to footnotes, but actually in reality shape entire empires. A bit about myself. So for everyone who has supported me with my YouTube shorts, thank you so much. I put in a lot of effort to it, and I believe 30 seconds are not enough to capture an entire story. I often struggle to condense? You get my point. I often struggle to put so much of information in one single short, so I decided why not try long forms instead? So please let me know if you like these deep dives, because I'm a girl with ADHD and I like a lot. So now here's the thing. Nero didn't start off as the monster we remember him to be. When he first came into power at 16, people celebrated him. He lowered taxes, banned secret trials, and even gave performances as a poet. Nero, an emperor as a poet, I mean, it was a job back then, but he's also a musician and actor. With all that being said, basically the ancient Romans had hope, and they thought that he would be a new type of ruler. He will deviate from his predecessors, beacon of hope for all of ancient Rome. A cultured leader who valued art as much as politics. But just as modern times, absolute power is a dangerous thing. And as Nero grew older, his dream is hardened. He was initially married to Octavia, who was Emperor Claudius's daughter, but his heart laid with his mistress, Poppaea Sabina, to a point that he divorced Octavia and replaced Octavia with his mistress, Poppaea Sabina. Ancient writers describe her as stunningly beautiful, but also very ambitious and calculating. Based on most sources I've read, she often was portrayed as a woman with a charm, elegance, and something very educated about her, which is what supposedly captured Nero's heart. She is still a mistress. I mean, yeah, I guess he married out of love, but compared to Nero's first wife, the dutiful Octavia, Poppaea burned with charisma. She became not just his partner, but his entire obsession, his entire world. He woke up in the morning, all he can think about is Poppaea Sabina. When he went to sleep, it's all about Poppaea Sabina. When he was still married to his wife, all he could think about was Poppaea Sabina. Essentially, their relationship scandalized the entirety of Rome. Nero showered her with jewels, silks, perfumes from Asia, and diamonds from God knows where, but you get my point. And he had her face immortalized on coins and statues. So if you go into an ancient Roman museum or a whole bunch of museums in Rome, I can list it down below if you'd like, because I've seen some myself. I like traveling. There's a whole bunch of coins from Nero's period that has her face on it. His intention was to immortalize his love for her forever, and so he had people print his face on coins and traded it throughout the empire to proclaim his love as eternal. And basically, I guess this is the equivalent of going on Instagram and saying, yo, I'm dating someone, I'm getting married to someone, and changing your Facebook status. But what began as passion curdled into total control. Nero's jealousy ran deep. I mean, when you want everyone in the empire to know that, yo, this is my wife, which is kind of cute, but also a bit, if he's overdoing it. And in the year 65 AD, their marriage ended in eternal horror. Poppaea was pregnant when she and Nero argued. Some sources say it was over something very trivial as him coming home late, but the other sources say it was something related to Poppaea looking at another man. So we don't know to this day because several sources say several different things. But in a fit of rage, Nero is said to have struck his pregnant wife. And it's here that Sporus appears. He was a young boy, part of the imperial household, and ancient sources don't really pinpoint his exact age. There are some sources saying that he was 15 or 16, and some say he was 13 or 14. But historians believe that he started capturing Nero's attention at around 13 or 14 because he looked exactly like Poppaea Sabina. But the moment she passed away, he realized, wait, he looks just like Poppaea. In his grieving, crazed, obsessive mind, he believed that Sporus could turn into Poppaea Sabina. What these ancient sources do tell us is the fact that Sporus' resemblance to Poppaea was not just limited to plain looks. Sporus' appearance is so striking to Poppaea that his delicate looks, luminous skin, and haunting eyes were what spooked out Nero so much that he decided, okay, this boy is my wife. For Nero, Sporus became an obsession. He saw in this boy the chance to resurrect what death had stolen from him, or in my opinion, what he did to his wife. It's your fault, my boy. But this was no act of love. It was controlling to the extreme. He forced this little boy into a brutal transformation. He had him castrated, stripping him of a choice, identity, and a future. He dressed him in Lady Poppaea's gown, adorned him with the jewels he had bought her from the different corners of the earth, and trained him to move, speak, and behave just like her. And to do this, he apparently hired special tutors, orators, and he paid them a heck ton of money, and even fired a whole bunch, believing that he needed the best of the best to train Sporus to act just like Sabina. Sporus was no longer himself. He was Nero's attempt at recreating the late empress. And then came the wedding. Yes, Nero actually married him, which by all means, if there's content, great, as long as it's not a child. And homosexuality was sort of an accepted practice in ancient Rome, and especially in Greece, so that's no problem at all. But the problem is, he wanted Sporus to act like a woman, basically replace Poppaea Sabina and be Poppaea Sabina, which spooked out the general population. Like, heck yeah. Speaking of Sporus' identity and name, even though we call him Sporus today, that's what he was called before he was named Sabina Poppaea, but in reality he didn't have a name. He was called Sporus, but according to historians, the name Sporus was likely an epithet given to him because of his effeminate looks. The word Sporus is derived from the word semen or seed, so historians find it hard to believe that he was actually named Sporus. And this also comes from the fact that Sporus, I wish I could call him something else, but I don't want to call him the boy. That just dehumanizes him. But despite being a slave, Sporus was said to have been very smart. He was intellectually brilliant compared to most people his age. Apparently, when Nero traveled to Greece, he took Sporus along with him and presented him as his wife to the different foreign courtiers and royalty. At the different games and public events, Sporus was forced to sit beside Nero and present himself as his very docile, delicate empress. It wasn't just eerie, it was theatrical. Nero's grief had basically turned him into an obsessive But empires never stay stable forever. By 68 AD, rebellion was breaking out. Governors of Spain and Gaul turned against Nero, and the Senate had declared him a public enemy. Suddenly, the man who had commanded absolute loyalty was abandoned by all of his people, and apparently even his Praetorian Guard abandoned him. Nero fled the city with just only a few companions, and among them was Sporus. That poor boy didn't have a choice. It's a haunting detail. After all that violation and control, Sporus still stayed by his side, or was forced to stay by his side. Sporus was with Nero until the very end, until Nero decided to take his own life out of shame. Nero decided to take his own life rather than face the consequences of his action, and Sporus was there with him when he did so. I'd like to bring in the fact that Sporus was still below 20, just imagine the weight of that existence. Every feast, every ceremony, even day-to-day life, as long as he's not stuck in his room, as long as Nero is in the room, he had to perform the role of the late empress. He had no identity, had nothing. He didn't even have a name for himself. He was no longer called Sporus. For Sporus, Nero's death didn't still mean freedom. It was just another stage of his sad life. Sporus ended up becoming a trophy that was passed on from official to official until he ended up with 2 emperors that followed Nero. First came Otto, who had in fact been married to Poppaea before Nero stole her away from him. Otto took in Sporus perhaps as a strange reminder that reminded him of his late and deceased wife, which is creepy in itself. Like, Sporus was first taken by Nero because he looked like Poppaea, and then now he's taken by Poppaea's other husband. Like, give this boy a break. It's very creepy, and I feel like Poppaea, to a certain extent, her existence is like the reason that Sporus had to go through all of this, but at the same time we can't blame her. Yes, she may have had to leave her ex-husband for Nero, but it's not like a woman has a choice. But after Otto came Vitellius, another short-lived emperor who seemed power for the moment. Vitellius had darker plans. He wanted to force Sporus into a grotesque spectacle. He used to be part of a reenactment of the rape where Sporus would be violated publicly. Sporus' story has been treated as nothing more than a scandalous footnote in Nero's biography. Ancient writers mocked him, calling him the empress that never was. But when we strip away the sneering tone, what we see is something deeply human. A boy stripped of his identity, used as a vessel for another man's obsession. In the end, Sporus claimed the only choice he ever had in his life, the choice of life. In a world where emperors rewrote reality, he asserted his own death. And maybe that's how we should remember him after all. Not as Nero's puppet, not as a false empress, but as a young man. So that's the tragic story of Sporus and Nero, a story of grief twisted into an obsession, of control disguised as love, and of a boy who became a symbol of Rome's cruelty. What do you think? Was Nero acting of love and greed, or just raw power? And what does Sporus' final act tell us about resistance, even if in impossible situations? In my opinion, I feel like most of the history we know today is often rewritten by victors and cynical misogynists, and it's up to us to take the little clues left behind and piece it together and get the full picture. So, if you liked today's episode, please do consider subscribing and giving it a like. And if you liked it enough, maybe you could drop a comment and give me some feedback. If you do like my current narrative style and the content I brought forward, if there's absolutely any information I missed, I do apologize. I tried doing a very thorough research, and this is all information based on the different sources I had read up on. If there's anything I missed, please drop it down on the comments and correct me. I am very open to feedback and corrections. Please do let me know if there are any other topics you'd like me to research on. I take these suggestions very seriously. It helps me understand what other people like, especially what other topics I'm missing, not just as someone who's out there on YouTube making videos, but also as someone who likes history in general, and I'd like to hear the opinions of fellow history nerds out there. My goal is to build a community here so that everyone can interact and get to know different perspectives everyone else has to offer. So just let me know. I will be uploading a new video next week. My goal is to upload a video every Sunday. Hit that notification bell, and I hope to see you in the next one. The next deep dive will be about Empress Catherine the Great of Russia, and trust me, she is a very interesting one. If you'd like to know what that's all about, keep in touch. Till the next one. Bye!